Former Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere, who claimed that debt-ridden African states were ceding sovereignty to the IMF and the World Bank, famously asked, "Who elected the IMF to be the Ministry of Finance for every country in the world?" Good question. Who did? Well, nobody did. Not you and me anyway. So how do these institutions get so much power worldwide? To find an answer to that question, we will have to go to the puppet masters. This is the pyramid of power that shows us who is in charge of the world. Almost entirely at the top, you see the Council of 13. These are the 13 Illuminati bloodline families. They rule the world as if we are mere slaves and they are the masters. Their tentacles reach deep into every aspect of life. Directly underneath the Council of the 13 bloodline families, you'll find a Committee of 300. What do we know about this committee? It was founded in the 17th century as the Committee of 300 of the British East India Trading Company by the British royal family. They used this company for their opium trade with China. In 1727, the British East India Trading Company continued as the Committee of 300 as we know it right now. The Committee of 300 works as the engine behind the New World Order. It controls the global bank cartel that we've just seen, all major corporations and secret societies. 300 men who all know each other direct the economic destinies of the continent, and they look for successors among their friends and relations. Walter Rathenau, 1909. The Committee of 300 is the leading organization behind the Club of Rome, the United Nations, NATO, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, Tavistock Institute, the Bilderberg Group, and so forth and so on. Its members are representatives of the 13 bloodlines, the European royal families and black nobility, added with some powerful commoners, as they used to call people outside the bloodlines, the CEOs of the world's largest companies. The head of the committee has always been the King or Queen of England. According to H.G. Wells, a former member of the Committee of 300, the committee's goal is a totalitarian one-world government. Former British MI6 intelligence officer Dr. John Coleman describes 21 goals of the Committee of 300. One world, one government, one currency, one church, one religion. Further on, Dr. Coleman wrote, "At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by the year 2050 by means of limited wars, organized epidemics of fatal rapid-acting diseases and starvation. Energy, food and water shall be kept at subsistence levels for the non-elite, starting with the white populations of Western Europe and North America, and then spreading to other races. The population of Canada, Western Europe and the United States will be decimated more rapidly than on other continents until the world's population reaches a manageable level of 1 billion, of which 500 million will consist of Chinese and Japanese races, selected because they are people who have been regimented for centuries and who are accustomed to obeying authority without question." Meet Zbigniew Kazimierz Brzezinski, a Polish-American diplomat and political scientist. He was President Johnson's advisor and national security advisor for President Carter. He was a prominent member of the Club of Rome, a member of the Committee of 300, a member of the Council of Foreign Relations, and a member of the ancient Polish black nobility. Brzezinski stated, "Unhindered by the restraints of traditional liberal values, the elite would not hesitate to achieve its political ends by using the latest modern techniques for influencing public behavior and keeping society under close surveillance and control. Brzezinski continues, "It will soon be possible to assert almost continuous control over every citizen and to maintain up-to-date files containing even the most personal details about health and personal behavior of every citizen, in addition to the more customary data. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. Power will gravitate into the hands of those who control information. Our existing institutions will be supplanted by pre-crisis management institutions, the task of which will be to identify in advance likely social crises and to develop programs to cope with them." Well, doesn't it sound like his blueprint has been implemented in the previous years precisely as he wanted, and even worldwide? What immense power does this committee have? The members of the Committee of 300 are reappearing everywhere, as the committee is the umbrella organization for all world-leading think tanks as the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. The Bilderberg Group, with its annual secret meetings, was envisioned by Dr. Josef Ratzinger, alleged spy and top advisor of General Władysław Sikorski, head of the Polish government in exile in London during World War II. It were Prince Bernhard, German husband of Queen Juliana of the Netherlands, who also lived in exile in London during World War II, and Paul Rijkens, the founding chairman of Unilever, who founded the Bilderberg Group in May 1954 in Hotel Bilderberg in Oosterbeek, the Netherlands. The meetings have always been very secret. Discussions are held under the Chatham House rule, meaning no statements of any kind are allowed to be made to the press. There are no meeting minutes taken. Attendees are entitled to use information gained at these meetings, but not attribute it to a named speaker. This should ensure open and free discussions, but critical thinkers state that the members are freely discussing our demise. Fact is that when you are invited to the Bilderberg meetings, you can expect a major career boost as Cabal puppets. The Council on Foreign Relations is a spin-off from the Institute of International Affairs, an Anglo-American intelligence organization formed after the World War I peace treaty in Versailles in 1919. Later on, the British branch split off into the Royal Institute of International Affairs, also known as the Chatham House, and the American branch became the Council on Foreign Relations. The goal of the Council is to inform the government about international political affairs, a fancy term for spying. Its members include senior politicians, secretaries of state, CIA directors, bankers, lawyers, professors, corporate directors, CEOs and prominent media figures. The Council is heavily financially supported by the Ford Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation, with David Rockefeller even becoming director of the CFR in 1949. The Council's main reports are about threats of wars and peace. The Council on Foreign Relations is an NGO, a non-governmental organization. The Trilateral Commission was founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger. It entails the cooperation between North America, Europe and Asia Pacific. The Trilateral Commission, also an NGO, represents influential commercial and political interests, a high-rank lobby group so to speak. The members and former members include leading figures in politics, intelligence, business, media and academia. This is the deep state, ruling the world, free from any democratic interference. A report from the Trilateral Commission in 1975 stated, "The vulnerability of democratic government in the US comes not primarily from external threats, though such threats are real. Not from internal subversion from the left or right, although both possibilities could exist, but rather from internal dynamics of democracy itself in a highly educated, mobilized and participant society." Noam Chomsky says about the Trilateral Commission, "They felt free to let their hair down and to talk openly about the need for an increasingly active and defiant public to be reduced back to its proper state of apathy and obedience, lest it continue to use democratic means to deprive them of their power." In his 1980 book, With No Apologies, Republican Senator Barry Goldwater suggested that the discussion group was a skillful, coordinated effort to seize control and consolidate the four centers of power, political, monetary, intellectual and spiritual, in the creation of a worldwide economic power superior to the political governments of the nation-states involved. The fact that these committees, commissions, groups, think tanks and more are membered by the elites of this world tell us a lot about their goals. This is the deep state, the unseen one world government. They are unelected, free from any electoral or democratic process and untouchable within their NGOs. They are ministers and presidents of countries, CEOs of banks, media and NGOs. They are lawyers, professors and intelligence officers. Their decrees and treaties, brought into the world by organizations as the UN, WHO and NATO, overrule constitutions no matter what. We've seen it happen over and over again in the last couple of years. Is there more to know about the identity of the Cabal? What about Washington, D.C. and the Vatican? How do they contribute to the one world government? Let's investigate it further in part 2 of this conclusion to the fall of the Cabal.